Why do humans do evil at all?
We live in a wicked world, which I don't think God intended, but I believe that God was able to use good.
How did the wicked world come about?
Sin entering the world.
How did sin enter the world?
Sin entered the world in Romans 5:12. It says through Adam ate the forbidden fruit.
Who put the fruit there?
The fruit was there by God.
Why did God put it there?
Because God gives us an option. Do we want to choose Him or do we want to choose our own way? It wouldn't be love if God said you have to do this.
So Adam and Eve, are they born all-knowing?
No.
If you put something poison in front of your child and give it the physical option to walk in one direction or go eat the poison, is that good to the child? You know that the child is going to be naive. If God is all-knowing, God knew that Adam and Eve were going to eat the fruit.
So I want to talk a little bit about this question because, I don't know the motive of this young man, but I think he asked a very legitimate question that probably a lot of people are often concerned with when it comes to the situation that unfolded in the Garden of Eden. He presents a lot of kind of questions about would a loving parent put something in their child's environment that would be dangerous and deadly? He asked the question of what is the responsibility of the parent to the child and then the child to the parent. He brings up the question of, was the tree the problem, or did putting the tree in the garden automatically cause the temptation to sin? And I thought about, is there ever a time that as a parent, I may possibly bring something into my home or have something in my home that can be a possible danger or even can be very deadly to my child? And yes, to me, the difference comes in of being a loving parent and also being a responsible parent is whether as the parent I set boundaries and parameters for my child when I introduce that thing into the environment in order to keep my child safe. And that is what God did. We do not know the ultimate reason why God put the tree of the knowledge of good and evil along with the tree of life in the garden, because we tend to focus more on the tree of knowledge of good and evil, and instead of focusing on the fact that he put two trees in the garden and we're the one that chose to eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. I asked myself, did God, when he introduced this tree that had the possibility to be deadly to his children, did he set parameters and guidelines in order to protect their safety? Yes, he did. He commanded and told them, of every tree you may eat, even the tree of life, but the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, please do not eat of it or you will surely die. So to me, that proves that he's not only loving, but also responsible, and that he, even though there is something in the garden that could be a possible threat to his children, he provided parameters in order to keep his children safe. As long as the children obeyed the parameters, the tree of knowledge of good and evil would have actually never been a threat to them. If nobody would have ate the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, we would all be perfect today, enjoying our beautiful time in Eden, ruling and reigning over the earth along with God. So if the tree is not what actually posed a threat to Adam and Eve, and the command is not what posed a threat to Adam and Eve, then what actually brought about the death of the human race? And if you go and read, it's the temptation to disobey is what brought the death to the human race. Go back and read in chapter 2, from the time God created Adam to when he put him in the garden, along with the tree of this knowledge of good and evil, that he and gave him the command not to eat from it, else he would die. There was no temptation to eat from this fruit. There was none whatsoever. Everyone went on about their life. So you have to ask yourself, where did the actual temptation to disobey God's command and eat the fruit come from? And if you go to Genesis chapter 3, you soon discover who was actually the perpetrator, the one who introduced the temptation to eat from the fruit. And Genesis 3:1 says that it was the serpent, aka the devil in the form of a serpent, who sowed the seed of doubt and desire that is what ultimately influenced Adam and Eve to eat from the fruit. And the crazy part is, when Adam and Eve did what they did, we can't use the excuse that they were naive, and so therefore, because they were naive and didn't understand what sin was, didn't understand what death was, or disobedience was, that should give them a free pass to sin. There's a difference between naivety, which means basically ignorance or a lack of experience or innocence versus rebellion. Rebellion is willful rejection of something, of, in this case, the law. Yes, while God did know that they were going to fall into sin and they were going to basically curse the entire human race, God already had an answer. He already had a solution. He already had a savior. And that savior is Jesus Christ. So I do believe that that young man's question was a legitimate question, because it might be a question that you and I have asked being a Christian and a believer. But instead of us leaning on our own understanding and allowing the enemy to have us just focus on all the things we couldn't have, all the questions that we really don't have the answer to, and why did God even put the tree in there to begin with, we miss the beauty of what God is trying to do. He's like, I'm not taking away your choices. But what I do have the power to do is to turn every one of your choices, whether good, bad, or indifferent, around for your good if you would let me. Thank God that God doesn't leave me in my mess, but that he provides an answer. And that answer and solution is Jesus Christ. Thank God that now when I make a mistake, I know that I have Christ to cleanse me from all my sins, so that all those mistakes I can learn from. And in the end, I don't have to go to hell. I can go to heaven and spend eternity with my Savior forever and ever. All praises be to God.